This podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Everything discussed on this podcast is for education and conversation, not personal medical advice. We're sharing information, opinions, and research, not diagnosing anyone. So if you're struggling, please reach out to a qualified healthcare professional.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to this week's episode of Dead Inside and Board Certified. Today we are talking about grief. And we've talked about grief a lot on this podcast, but today, probably not what you're expecting. It's a different type of grief. And so when we talk about losing a parent, we usually picture this happening later in life. We get older, our parents get older, and then unfortunately we deal with their death. But what we don't really talk about is what it feels like to lose both parents early in life, whether it be young adulthood, teenage years, or even as a child. And so our guest today is going to kind of take us through that journey. You will see that she has a very dark sense of humor, and that is how she copes, and there is nothing wrong with that. She will describe herself as an adult orphan. She will make jokes, and honestly, hearing her story, you're going to understand why. So what I want people to take away from this episode is that there is no right or wrong way to grieve. You are allowed to use dark humor. You are allowed to make jokes. You are allowed to sit there and sob and cry. It is different for each person, and there is no wrong way to do it. So however you learn to keep life moving forward, we're supporting of it. So this conversation is not going to be about having all the answers, but we are going to give people permission to grieve however they feel that they need to grieve. And so, like I said, maybe that's crying, maybe that's laughing, maybe that's calling yourself an adult orphan and making jokes about it. But whether or not you've lost somebody or you're supporting someone that has, I think today's conversation is going to be very beneficial to those out there. So let's get started with our guest.
Well, everybody, we have this week's special guest, little orphan Ashley. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
It's wonderful to have you. As I warned you guys, our sense of humor is absolutely fucked. So I'm not laughing at the fact that she has lost her parents, but I know how she copes with these things.
Yeah.
And so I'm just matching her where she's at. So thank you so much for joining us. And as I kind of mentioned earlier, we are going to be talking about grief, but primarily how grief is very different in different people. You'll learn that Ashley's grief, it doesn't start out making bad jokes, but like it can turn into that eventually. So thanks for joining us. Take a little bit of time and tell us about you. Fill us in on who you are, what you do, and then we'll dive right into the tricky questions.
I'm Ashley. I am a nurse in the emergency room. I don't know, for about like 6 years. I have 2 kids that are amazing. Regardless, I don't know how I raised them, so they're great there. And I'm a dog mom, and those are about the exciting things in my life.
Yeah, Bailey's a princess. She's a queen. This is the dog, not her actual children. I mean, she does have great children, but
Yeah,
you know me and dogs.
yeah.
How's Landon's mustache coming in?
Oh, he did tell me he had to shave it so it could grow in heavier. I didn't see it before, and I still don't see it now, but delusion is a coping mechanism.
And that's okay. So tell us a little bit about each of your parents, like things that you remember about them. And of course, we'll go into the story about losing them. But I want to hear, and I'm sure other people want to hear about them first.
Okay. So my dad has kind of fucked me for the rest of my life because he was such a great man. Now, granted, he was a cranky ass old man, but I had never seen anything that my mom needed or wanted or us kids, and he just didn't make it happen. Bill came up. He was picking up fucking side jobs. We needed, something done around the house. He's doing it. So he was just very much like, you do it. Like, I mean, and to kind of touch base a little bit, like to just reiterate how great he was. Prior to me blessing my family with my presence, he was an alcoholic. And it came to the point where my mom was like, hey, not the life I signed up for, so it's me or the alcohol. My dad said, great, drop the alcohol, cold turkey. Just left it. I think his first drink after he stopped that was when my older sister turned 21 and he went out and had a beer with her. Um,
Wow.
yeah, like he was just diehard for the family, no matter what. Um, but so like I said, he kind of screwed me for anybody else because when they say like if he wanted to, he would, that was my dad in a picture. Like he would. I mean,
He
he's
ruined
driven me.
dating for you.
Yes, I mean, like he's literally driven me to work when I work an hour away because it was, or I guess it would have been school at the time, because there was a snowstorm. He didn't want me driving.
Aw.
I was like, "Well, Dad, you have to drive an hour home," and he's like, "It's fine, or I'll go to Menards for 6 hours."
In a
All
snowstorm.
right, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So he's also where I get my lovely attitude from. He taught me to be very strong-willed. You know, if you don't start it, but you finish it. And unfortunately, I might have taken that one a little too headstrong.
Well,
And then, and then there was my mom who was absolutely brilliant. And I can say that factually because she was valedictorian of her high school.
okay, queen.
But she was more shy. I don't want to say timid because if you knew her, she was not timid, but she was more shy and a little less outspoken, which I guess if you're around my dad, you don't have to be. And so I think through her life, she tend to kind of got pushed aside and almost like a doormat when that was not her at all. Um, but she was okay being in the background, which was great,
Okay.
which because another lesson I learned from her is if you're in the background, you're seeing everything. So we would be fucking watching the crowds and people watching, and then we'd go home and talk shit. Like everyone thinks my mom was so sweet. Just know me and her talk shit about you probably sometime in our life. Like
And if
things
my
went
mom don't
wrong.
like you, I don't like you.
Yes. And listen, to hold myself accountable, if I knew one of my friends did something wrong or like an ex, I would go and tell my mom because if I pissed her off, now that's something I would have to deal with later to be like, yeah, no, like we were just mad in the moment. We're over that because she's not mad in the moment. She's mad forever.
Yeah. Like I
But
already told my mom, so you're screwed.
yes. And so she was my like confidant and we bonded. She knew fucking everything about me. I mean, I'm an open book through and through. I'm sure my mom wished there was things she didn't know about me.
Okay.
But especially into adulthood, it was really great building that relationship because I'd be like, hey, you want to hear some of the shady things I did as as a high schooler? Because you can't punish me now. She was
Gotcha.
like, not really. And I'm like, I'm going to tell you.
But
Ugh.
were their deaths expected?
So my dad's was more expected. But it was still kind of a shock. And then my mom's was absolutely not expected at all.
How close together were their deaths? I know you've said it's like not far.
Yeah. So my dad passed in December of 2020, and then my mom passed in April of 23. So about 3 years, two and a half,
Wow.
3 years.
Wow. Do you feel like the second loss was easier? I mean, like, honestly, how that's so close together, but I mean, I know you had a little bit more time to prepare for losing your dad, but was it a completely different experience because you weren't expecting it with mom?
Yeah. So, and I mean, we can touch base on this or we can not. I don't care. Um, I think, at least for me, it was like way more difficult. And part of that is because, like, I now have no parents. Like, there's no adult in my life that I can go to and be like, I need you. I need this information,
Yeah.
anything. Um, so like that, but also for me personally, it was way more difficult because I got to be the lucky one that found my mom unresponsive and had to like get everything en route, 911, starting CPR, everything. So I think I have a little bit more trauma based than that one.
Yeah.
Which, mind you, I have trauma based in my dad's as well, but that one was a
Right.
little bit more direct. Okay, so we'll start with my dad. My dad was in dialysis for 6 years, so each year he re-upped for the transplant list. And we knew dialysis was coming. Like, we had known about his kidney issues for as long as I can remember. He lost a kidney before I was even born. So, like, that was no surprise. We knew end result was going to be dialysis.
Yeah.
6 years in. And so it kind of sucks because the year that it happened was 2020. And he was just getting, he would hate it that I would say depressed because I'm not fucking depressed. But he was. He was just getting down. And I know part of that was with the shutdown and everything. And so in July, he we get a call in the middle of the night. Like, well, it was like 9 p.m. They call my mom and they're like, hey, we potentially have a kidney. We have to finish testing. And so at this time, only one person can go to the hospital because it's 2020. So my mom was not very well with getting around. So she's like, it's going to have to be you. And I'm like, okay. So me and my mom are just like on pins and needles. My dad's like, okay, I'm going back to bed. Wake me up if the kidney's good. Wild.
Casual.
Wild. So I think it was like 4 o'clock in the morning. We get the call, kidney's good. You need to get here now.
Okay.
And so, of course, wake my dad back up. And so we go down there. And so we go through the kidney transplant, and it was phenomenal. Like, to the point where the next day they're like, what's your pain level? And he's like, I don't have pain. They're like, no, we need it. Like, here, take some fentanyl. And he's like, no. Like, they had to eventually just force him to take oral pain meds because they're like, we don't want your pain to get ahead of you. But my dad's like, this is truly the best I've felt
Wow.
in the majority of my adulthood. So we do that, and we're like, you know what? This is the good news we needed. So he's going through his healing journey. We are doing blood work and going to Peoria and everything 3-4 times a week. And so him and I developed a really, really close friendship throughout this whole time because he got to hang out with me, so he was lucky.
Of course.
But partway through, he started complaining of like what he thought was acid reflux.
Okay.
And so we had talked to his doctor. We're like, maybe it's because of the high dose of prednisone, because prednisone fucks me up. And they're like, you know what, that could be it. So they lowered the prednisone and it kind of went away and then it started coming back. So they're like, well, let's try some Carafate. Like maybe you just have like overproduction. We're going to coat the stomach. Again, kind of helped, kind of didn't. So we sent him to the cardiologist and they did a stress test and they literally stopped him and said, stop that. You're going to go and go to cath lab.
Oh.
And so we go to cath lab, and for those that don't know, they take a long wire and go up and they try to open up your artery. And if there's a clot, they take it out. Well, unfortunately, where my dad's occlusions were, they said was like, if these are the veins, it was like right at the top of it. So they couldn't cath it. They couldn't put a stent in. We had to go to open heart surgery now.
Jesus.
And so October 8th, we go to open heart surgery. Again, I'm the only person there. And I just remember sitting there thinking, oh my God, if my dad dies, I have to tell everybody. Like, I have to text everybody as I sit an hour away from home from everybody and be like, hey.
By the way.
So, so he had the open heart surgery, survived it. And they had even told us, like, because of the kidney surgery and all of the anti-rejection meds he's on, he needs to very, very much be as safe as possible because any infection could be detrimental.
Yeah.
Well, lucky for us, end of October, Dad gets COVID.
Fuck.
And I got COVID at the same time. I think my mom got COVID. Like, we were just COVID ridden. And we made it through the incubation days, and it was fine. And then all of a sudden, my dad was just having a hard time. Like, he woke up and he was like, my wrist hurts and my ankle hurts. And I'm like, did you fall? And he's like, no, I didn't. And I was like, Dad, like, you got to tell me if you fell. And he's like, no, I didn't. So I take him to the hospital here and they do x-rays and they're like, nope, it's fine. They send him on his way. The next day, my dad can't even stand up. And so we had to call the ambulance. And that was probably end of November, maybe very beginning of December. Well, come to find out, he has full-blown SIRS. He has a full systematic infection due to his COVID and due to have no immune system. And it was like every little win we'd get, then something else would go on. And then, they're still trying to play it safe to save his kidney. And they're still trying to protect his heart and all this shit. And it came to the point where I had messaged his kidney doctor and I was like, can we stop trying to save the kidney? Like, Dad's lived on dialysis before. And he said, I've already stopped that. Like, we no longer care about the kidney. It's life over organ. And I'm like, okay, great. And so we're just kind of bouncing back and forth. And it was Wednesday morning, December 17th, probably about 9 a.m. And I get a phone call because I was his POA. And it said, hey, so your dad just really had a hard time throughout the night. And he's breathing about 40 times a minute.
That's
so we
a
think
problem.
that, yeah. So they said, we think the next course of action is to intubate him. And I said, okay. And mind you, I had just accepted my nursing job at this point. Like, I think I was partly through orientation. So I don't know what this means. And I was like, oh, so like, is he unresponsive? They're like, no. And I said, okay, so is he alert and oriented? They're like, yeah. And I said, what does he want? And they said, well, you're his POA. I said, if he can't make decisions. And they said, now, my dad is not medical by any means, so please speak to him with extreme layman terms. But you need to make sure he understands, like, he's not going on a vent to live for the rest of his life. This is a option. And they're like, well, you have to make the decision. And I said, I'm not making the decision unless if I talk to my dad. And so I tell my mom, and next thing I know, me, my mom, my siblings were all in my mom's fucking minivan driving down to Peoria.
Yeah.
And so we get there and we park at the top level of the parking garage. And mind you, my dad is one of 8 and his siblings are all there too because phone tree. And so they're like, no, you got to make the decision. I was like, okay, let me come in there and talk to my dad. And they're like, you can't. He had a positive COVID test. And I said, I don't care. Don't care. And so they gave him an iPad. And so I had to talk to him and explain that they want to intubate him to help him breathe. And he's like, I don't want to live on a ventilator. And I was like, I understand that. And I was like, this is not supposed to be like a lifelong thing. And I said, however, Dad, you are extremely sick and you've had years of smoking in your past and you have COVID and, all these other things going on. So I want to be very real with you. If you get intubated, you may not come off of it. And he's like, well, like, he's like, so I'll never see you guys again. And I was like, no. And I said, the only other option is we can put you on comfort measures and you'll be allowed to see your family and we can come up in small groups so you can see us. And he's like, I don't want to die alone. Like, I want my family there. And I'm like, okay, like, whatever you want. And I'm like, but like, I just want you to know I support you regardless. And he's like, no, like, I want my family. Which when I got off the iPad, I was like sobbing. I'm like, I just talked my dad into dying. But also thinking back, like, it was always family for him.
Yeah.
So we got lucky. And so his siblings got to go up and see him, and then like we all got to filter up there. And then the last group was going to be me, my younger sister, and my mom. And as we were sitting there talking to his kidney doctor, he gets a call that my dad's respirations went up to like 50, and I'm sure it's just because it was an emotional state for him because my other siblings were up there. And so this angel of a fucking doctor said, we're not waiting, and grabbed me, my mom, and my sister. Now, mind you, my mom's in a wheelchair because she can't walk long distances. And he grabs her wheelchair and just takes us to the room. And it's a COVID room, so there's a little breezeway where you got to get ready. And he shoved us in there and he said, whatever you do, do not leave this room. And he shoved us in there, and my other siblings go to leave, and he said, do not leave this room. And he walked out. And let me tell you, and I get it, and I feel bad now working in healthcare, but also I'm not mad because I got to be with my dad during his final breath. But I mean, they were afraid to come in, and I get it. Like, I do get it because of what COVID has shown them.
Yeah.
But I mean, we weren't leaving my dad, and it was this will show you the type of person my mom is, because she's usually quiet, and my mom was a little bit heavier. And my mom said, what are they gonna do? She said, I'll throw myself on the ground. They're gonna pick me up. What are they gonna do?
Damn it.
And I was like, you're right, Michelle.
Valid point, Michelle.
What are they gonna do? They're gonna spend more time in here trying to pick me up
Yeah.
than letting us just sit here and say goodbye to them.
Well, and we know now that COVID, like intubation was the worst thing.
Yeah.
And, had he been intubated, like you said, it's likely that he wouldn't have come off and he wouldn't have gotten to say his goodbyes.
Right.
Do you have any regrets with how that transpired?
Not anymore. I did for a while because it did really feel like I talked my dad into dying so we could say goodbye to him.
Yeah.
Because you want to be hopeful, but again, COVID was a fucking whirlwind of blatantly practicing medicine.
Yeah.
We are seeing, the healthiest get sick and everything. So I understand that it was very, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, they're trying everything and they're still not sure what's sticking. And like you
Yeah, we
said,
don't know
we
what's going
now
on.
know. Yeah, we now know intubation was one of the worst things. And like my dad already had a slew of other things going on. So it wasn't like he just had COVID. He had failing organs and no immune system. And so, of course, you want to hope and you think in your mind, you're like, even if there's a chance, we're going to do it.
Yeah.
Then, and like, and mind you, the whole way there, that's what we're talking about. If there's a chance, we're going to take it. And then it came to, well, there's a chance, but that chance could mean that we never see him again. We never speak to him again. Or there's 100% certainty he will die, but we can hug him, we can kiss him, we can tell him everything that he's meant to us and just hold his hand for one last moment.
Yeah.
And it was not my decision to make. So I had to present the facts to my dad. And like I said, I had a lot of guilt for a long time that I was like, great, I talked my dad into dying. But also looking back, it was always going to be family for him.
Yeah.
So,
And I'm sure he would have no regrets too, because at the
oh,
end of the day, like that was no way to die alone on a ventilator.
Yeah.
Like it's not.
Yeah. I mean,
the way to go.
unfortunately, in that whole time frame and situation, me and my family, we were the lucky ones.
Yeah.
We didn't have to say goodbye through a camera, and we did get to hold his hands and speak to him. And so I'm not naive to the situation. Even in the worst situation of how blessed we were.
Yeah.
So
Well, and it sounds like you had a little more time to prepare with that. Tell me more about what happened with your mom and how that experience differed.
so that one differed drastically. So my mom, in little background, is me and my kids have always lived with my parents.
Yeah.
Uh, so my mom, one, was continuously grieving. She didn't know how to get out of it. And then also to make matters worse, her best friend also passed like 3 months after my dad did. So the one person she thought she could turn to ended up passing. And so I know she felt alone. And there was a point though where she did, like, I know she did to me and I think to the other siblings, that she apologized because she said that she felt like her grief took away from our grief. And at points it did. But I mean, I can't imagine losing the love of your life.
Right.
Like I it's not where I'm at in my life. So I guess I could never imagine that.
Right.
And but it sucks because like the last year before she passed, she was finally starting to like kind of come back to life again.
Yeah.
And she was starting to kind of enjoy things a little bit more. And she was a little bit more open to talk. Like, I've always been the one that I talk about my parents constantly. If you want to hear a story about them, I'm constantly bringing them up because to me, that makes me feel better.
Yeah.
She could not even talk about my dad without breaking down into like sobs and like ruining her whole day, which sounds shitty, but it's what it is. Like, she didn't know how to cope. So, um, so with my mom, she worked from home. And the day that this happened, I wake up a little bit late to take my kids to school. And I come downstairs and my mom's grabbing like probably Diet Coke and shit to go to her office.
As she should.
Yeah, as she should. And I'm grumpy, right? I'm just like, mm. And and my kids are getting ready. And my mom's like, "What up, motherfucker?" Because
Perfect.
that's who my parents were. And I just like looked at her and she goes, "Oh, Landon, your mom's cranky today." And I was just like, don't you have work to do? Like, stop talking to me.
She hadn't had the Diet Coke yet. You haven't.
Right.
You're not alive yet.
Yeah. And so, like, mind you, that's just who she is. Like, I wake up and she's fucking saying shit like that. And I was like, go do your job. Like, stop bothering me.
Yeah.
And so she goes into her office. I take the boys to school. And it was not uncommon that while I was taking the boys to school or whatever, she would like text me and be like, breakfast question mark.
Yeah.
And so I happened to be on the phone with my older sister. And so I was just sitting in my driveway talking to her. My mom sends a text for breakfast. And the true heart of the matter is I was on the phone with my sister bitching about my mom because I was just irritated about something that didn't happen that day. Like, I was just irritated about something and I'm venting to my sister who, can understand the situation because same parent. And so like I text my mom back and I'm like, "Yeah, that's fine. Like, do you want your regular?" And she didn't answer. And that wasn't uncommon because I realized I'd been talking for a while and she usually had like a meeting around like 9. And so I went to our spot and I got what we normally give. And then I came home and I remember walking in and I was like, "I think I fucked up your order." if I did, like, I'll go back. And so you have to come through my dining room, and then my mom's office is like the sun porch in the corner. And I was setting the drinks down on the dining room table, and I turned, and my dog's just laying on the floor, which I thought was weird. She didn't like come up to greet me. And then there was my mom laying on the ground. And so I go in there, and I won't keep it
Yeah.
I'll keep it, non-graphic, but she was pretty unresponsive. And so immediately, and thankfully at this point I had 3-4 years of nursing under my belt. And so I immediately, because my phone was on the dining room table, I jumped up, grabbed my phone, and went and unlocked my front door. And then I called 911 and pretty much was like, hey, this is my address. This is the situation. I'm starting compressions. And I get that they don't know who I am on the other line, but they're
Right.
like, okay, ma'am, is there a pulse? Is she breathing on her own? You need to make sure you do this. And I'm like, bitch, I'm already in compressions. I'm
I
already
got
fucking doing
this.
it. Like, I'm already fucking doing it. And I was like, my front door is unlocked, and I have 2 front doors. So I was like, go to the door, like the front door that's red, go there. It's unlocked. I have a dog. She's friendly. She's going to bark. And so they come in. And once they took over for me, poor Bailey got traumatized because I just had to throw her into the bathroom.
Yeah.
And because that was the only place I could lock her up at the moment. And because, again, I'm home by myself.
Right.
And so they come, an officer comes, and they, God bless them, worked on my mom for probably 45 minutes or so. And let me tell you, when they say disassociation is fucking real, I was just like, and the officer's like, is there anyone you want me to call? I'm like, yeah, I gotta call my siblings. I gotta call my mom's family. Like, and he's like, do you want me to help with that? And I was like, no, it's fine. Like, I got it. And I'm sure I sounded just like, hey, mom was found unresponsive. There's paramedics here working on her. Like, I'm sure it was very just flat.
Like matter of fact. Yeah.
Yeah. It was just, these are the facts. This is what's going on. And, so as I have family starting to show up, I'm like trying to corral them. I went into fucking lead nurse, trying to corral them, get them in an area. I'm like, you gotta let them work. You can't be in their way.
Yeah.
And one of the paramedics came up to me and he said, hey, um, I just want to let you know, like, we've been X amount of time without a pulse. We've done this, we've done this. And I said, okay. And I was like, are we calling it? And he said, that would be our next step. He said, we can continue if you want. And I was just very much nurse brain at the time, which I highly appreciate, honestly. And I was like, no, I think it'd be best. Like, so we call it, and coroner comes, and everyone's like, can I go see her? And I was like, hold on, like, there's some things that need to be done first.
Yeah.
And so I'm like corralling the family, and I'm like discussing, and I'm letting them know the next steps, which I get that not everybody has that. So I was thankful that I kind of had those tools in my arsenal. Um, but then after that was when everything really kind of fucking hit me, when I'm like at home by myself, and I'm just like sitting there, and I'm like, oh my God, like, I should have had them work longer. And, she seemed like she felt okay. Like, she didn't say anything. And I should have known the signs and, X, Y, and Z. And then I'm like, the whole time my mom goes unresponsive. I'm out in the car bitching to my sister about her. And so I had a lot of guilt surrounding her death. But also, I mean, it is what it is, I guess. And sounds shitty, but like I I don't know how to say this without sounding like shitty, and maybe non-medical people won't understand this,
Right.
but I'm like actually very thankful we didn't get Ross back or like get her heartbeat back,
Hmm.
because had we have done that, um I think it would have been an ongoing cycle, or the recovery for that would have been miserable, and then she probably would have ended up in a nursing home for
Right.
rehab, and she would have been like, I just think it would have created more tragedy and sorrow in the long run.
Yeah.
Um, or like even making the decision that if she got her heartbeat back and she went to the hospital and coded again, and then like to make the decision then to like pull her off life support, I think would have
Yeah.
been different. So I'm like, okay, mom, like kind of shitty of you for you to just go off and die on me like that. But I guess, you took the decision from me. Appreciate it.
I
Like,
mean, like, it all started with getting her coffee order wrong. So
right,
she was
right,
pissed. She was
right. She
pissed.
came out joking for the morning, and I was like, don't you have work to do?
And you were just being
So,
yourself. But
yeah,
I've learned in those moments, and we're going to talk about things that people say to
yeah,
you that it's like, would you shut the hell up? Like, no, that's not it. But
right,
when things happen, you always ask yourself, what if, like, what if I did this?
yeah,
What if I did that? And I tell people, switch that. Instead of what if, make it even if. Even if I wasn't in the car, even if I had gone
mhm,
inside, you may still have had the same outcome. And so I think it's very understandable to go through that grief process. And do you feel like there was a period where people were obviously in your life and they're checking on you, but what was it like when people just stopped? Like there comes a
oh,
day where people just stop checking
oh
in.
yeah, oh yeah. It like, and actually, especially my older sister and I have talked about this a lot, but of course, the day of, couple days, whatever, everyone's in your home, everyone's,
Hmm.
you know, and this is just me personally. Uh, I hated that so much.
Hmm.
Like my aunts and uncles from my dad's side were showing up, which is like great, but I just remember wanting to be alone in that moment. And so
Yeah.
I'd like go to another room, and then they would like follow me because like I also needed to keep myself busy. So I'm like trying to pick up the kitchen, and they just followed me. And I was just like so fucking overwhelmed that I literally went outside to the garage and like popped open the trunk of my car and just sat in my trunk so people would leave me alone. And so I'm like, I get it. And I'm not saying I know how to act with a death of anybody. But yeah, and they're like, let me know if you need anything, always reach out, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden, nobody's checking on you. And I can say for me, and especially my older sister, because we've talked about this,
Hmm.
I didn't need somebody checking on me in the first week or two because obviously it fucking sucks.
Yeah.
And like, I didn't need people checking on me on the day of the funeral because guess what? Everyone's going to be there. It fucking sucks.
Yeah.
What I needed was somebody checking in on me in a month.
Yeah.
And when the silence has fallen and you have a lot of time to sit with your thoughts.
Yeah.
Um, and that wasn't there. And so, and granted, all of my friends have been fantastic. I can literally text them and be like, so grief's a bitch today. And they're like, yeah, like, you want to talk about it? And I'm like, no, no, I just wanted to let you guys know,
Yeah.
I'm in my feelings today.
Which you're allowed to
But
do.
yes, but so yeah, I did have some really great friends and some friends that also understood losing a parent.
Hmm.
And I had one friend that actually lost both of her parents pretty close together.
Oh.
And so she had come over, like when I had texted my friend group and I was like, hey, my mom decided she wasn't compatible with life anymore today, so
Damn it,
she
Michelle.
dipped. Yeah. And she just showed up, and it was funny because it was when I was sitting in my trunk in my driveway, and she's like, "I don't know, I just had to be here." And she, like, enveloped me in a hug, which she gives the best hugs, and I was just, like, crying, and I said, "I'm an orphan." And she said and she, like, laughed, and she said, "I said the same thing."
I mean, coping,
Yeah,
you know?
and, but yeah, so and, like, I don't know, my friends, they fucking get me, like, when, my mom had died, and my other friend, Brittany, she had come over, and one of the things I cried about, because I was just sitting there, and I was just like, I will no longer have a family member to stand for me if I ever get married. Like, my dad was gone, so he was never gonna walk me down the aisle. I have nobody to give me away. And I don't know why that was my concern. I'm single. I don't even have prospects for a husband. And I mean, she just like held me. And then a couple weeks later, I was like, I don't know why that was the thing I was so worried about and like why that was such a heartbreaking
Yeah.
ordeal to me. And she said, I know, I thought like, baby, you don't even have anyone right now, but it's okay.
But didn't
She
say
said,
anything about that.
right. And so yeah, so it sucks when the silence kicks in.
Yeah.
However, I have always been blessed with some of the best friends that when the silence gets too much,
Yeah.
they don't judge me or um like chastise me for having these fucking emotions 3 years later, 2 years later. They understand that sometimes I'm driving to work and all of a sudden like something just happens and I whether it be a song or I don't know, my brain just likes to hurt my feelings. And I'm like, hey, do you remember how you don't have any parents? Yeah, that's cool. And so, like, if I come to work and they're like, what's wrong? And I'm like, yeah, I just cried my eyes out on the way to work because I realized I don't have parents and I miss them. And they're like, okay, what do you need? And I was like, I just needed to
My
tell somebody
parents?
that. Yeah. Like, I just needed to tell somebody that. And they're
Yeah.
like, okay. They're like, what else do you need? I'm like, I don't know. My parents not to dip out on their responsibilities, but here we
Not to
are.
ruin my day. Like,
Right.
was there anything weird that people didn't warn you about where like it just would hit you back harder? Like I've heard people talk about it's just the things like, oh, like I was Facebook friends with my mom and it's reminding me it's Michelle's birthday. And you're like, "Eh." Was there
Yeah.
anything that like randomly hit you and you're like, damn, I didn't think about that?
Yeah. I think one of the biggest things for me is on my parents' birthday or even their death day, I get a billion text messages and I appreciate that so much. However, um, those days to me aren't like the hard days
Mm,
because it's expected.
yeah.
Like I can plan for those days ahead of time.
Yeah.
Um, and I guess like if I would have discussed about grief beforehand, I would have assumed also that those days are going to be the hardest fucking days. I'm not saying
Right.
I'm in a great mood by any means, but um no, it's like the random fucking Tuesday when I'm driving to work and um something hits me. Like not to go far into detail, but there was an incident at work not too long ago where um management had a discussion with me
Mm,
and I left so like upset from work about that situation. And I was driving home and I got so upset because I'm mad about the situation at work. But now all of a sudden I'm pissed off because I don't have my mom to go and bitch at about these people. And so she can tell me that they're also shitty fucking people and sit there and just like let me vent. And I was almost more upset by the fact that I didn't have my mom to turn to
yeah.
and like just release all that on than that I like got in trouble at work.
Yeah.
And so then me being, me, I was just very much like, oh, now I'm double pissed off at work because how are you gonna not give me the opportunity to talk to my mom about this? They had nothing to do with that. But
But in the moment, yes, they did.
right. Because like, so it's not even like the big moments, like, and I'm sure if I do ever get married, it's gonna be difficult. But it's the times where I need that extra support, or I just need that like bitching buddy that like gets me. And
Yeah.
but yeah, so it's definitely like the random days. Or nobody tells you how much even how much time goes by that there are moments you forget that you don't have parents,
Mm-hmm.
or that you forget that they've died. Because like I would be watching a movie and a trailer comes on for another movie. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna have to tell dad like about this movie. He'd fucking love this. And then
Yeah.
I'm like, or I guess not. Like, or I'll be driving or run into somebody my dad used to know. It's like nobody told you, even though you've grieved and all of this, there are still days you wake up or there are still moments throughout your life that for a second they're not dead and you're so excited to reach out to them and or talk to them or tell them something. And then that second flips and you get to realize, well, no, you don't. Like,
Yeah. Well, and it sounds like in those moments, what you need is people that's like, hey, I don't know what to say, but let me just sit with you. Let me just
oh,
be available. Let me
yeah.
just be with you. Because I know you and I have talked because I was curious. Like fortunately I have both my parents. I haven't gone through a loss at that level. Loss, sure, but not
Right.
not at that level. And so yeah, I know what we learn in school and I know how we have therapeutic communication, but like
Yeah.
real world talk, what do you say to people and what do you not say to people? So what are some things that were helpful, like that people would say and you're like, okay, like that I appreciated.
Um, I think one of the best things that I had heard, um, and what's funny is I had heard this after my dad had passed, and I was talking to another coworker who had lost a
Mhm.
parent.
Mhm.
And but it was him and I were just talking because he had lost his mom and I had lost my dad. And we were just talking and um he had said something about like, I love though that you like are very open about talking about your dad. And I said, yeah, like it's comforting to me. And he had said something about, yeah, I like to talk about my mom. So like essentially she's not like lost into the ether. Like we are keeping her alive like through that. And I was like, and I really like that because um I mean, how many people like I mean, you go to a fucking cemetery and you're like, how many of these people are like remembered?
Yeah.
And so like I always wanted my parents to be remembered because they were fucking hilarious and they were fucking
Mhm.
funny. And um I love telling stories about them. Sometimes I get away with me and people will be like, oh, like your dad sounds so wonderful. Like, hope he's doing well. And I'm just like, he is.
Well, about
I, I,
that,
I get a little too real with my conversations.
yeah.
But yeah, I really liked that.
Yeah.
Um and I don't know that there's anything like specific otherwise except just knowing that the group of friends that I have chosen to surround myself with in my adulthood would never be off put with me reaching out at noon or 3 o'clock in the morning and being like, hey, I just need somebody to sit in silence with me. I just need somebody to hear the story about my mom or my dad. I just need some sort of like support to
Mhm.
get me through this moment. And they 100% would.
Mhm.
Like, I mean, all my friends at work, I fucking tell them stories left and right, and they just fucking play in on it.
And we love to hear
Um,
them. We love to hear them.
yeah, like the one, like still to this day, there was a time where Sean was learning our names as a child, and he, for some reason, kept calling my mom Roy instead of like grandma. And so
Okay.
for like 3 weeks, my mom was Roy before he decided to call her Nona. And so I've told the story. Well, like a couple of my friends, they're like, oh, fucking Roy.
Damn it.
Yeah, damn it, Roy. Like, and so it is nice to have that connection with people who never got to meet my parents and that they kind of help keep their spirit alive for me and that they
Yeah.
fucking play in it. Cause like I also know if my mom was still alive and these friends came over, they'd be like, what up, Roy? Like,
And she'd be like, okay, period.
she'd be like, God damn it, Ashley.
What's up, motherfuckers?
Yeah. Yeah.
Now let's talk about. I told you I want to play a game where we talk
Yeah.
about some of the dumb shit that people will say to you. And so on
Yes.
a scale of 0 to 10, 10 being just like internal screaming, absolute disgust.
Yeah.
Let's talk about these statements and how they would make you feel. And this is an educational moment for those listening. Don't say this shit. Don't say
Yeah.
this shit. Please just, it's okay to say, I don't know what to say right now. I don't know what to say right now. So they're in a better place.
That's probably a solid. We'll be nice. We'll give it like a solid 8
Okay.
because, you know, maybe they had a truly bad life or conditions. So they might be in a better place. But don't tell me that about my parents because I'm fucking awesome. So you can't tell me any other place is better than right with me.
Fact.
So
Everything happens for a reason.
mm, that's probably a good 10.
What
Because,
was the reason?
yeah, fuck. Like, you're telling me my dad finally got his kidney to then have to go through the trials and tribulations of getting a whole fucking open heart surgery to getting COVID. So his last 6, 7 months of his life were fucking miserable. What
Yeah.
reason was that? To build fucking character? I didn't need any more.
No, he could have done that.
Right,
What
right. And
about
he did.
God needed them more than you?
And whoever says that to me is about ready to need God. That's a 10.
Like, I'm sorry. I think God has parents.
Yeah.
You don't. So,
Listen, I I don't know how God needs them more than me because I had to learn how to use my own fucking mower by myself. And
damn.
God sure as fuck didn't come down and teach me that.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm. But didn't
So
you know that time heals all wounds?
yeah, okay. We will give that one. Mhm. Okay. In theory, we'll give that one like a 5, but saying
Okay.
it to somebody, we're gonna give that like an 8. Because
Yeah.
time doesn't heal the wounds. You learn to adapt and grow and live with this new situation and the way you learn to live with your life. Like, it does not make it easier. You do not necessarily become stronger. You've just adapted to it. So in theory, I can understand that one. Don't fucking say that to me, especially right after I lost a parent, because
No.
I hope your parents are like, I hope your children feel the same way about you because I'm about ready to fucking take you out.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah. Stay strong.
yeah, no, we'll give that one like a 5. It's not the worst thing.
I feel like that also
Um,
stigmatizes death and stigmatizes grief, where it's like you're not allowed to break down and you're not allowed to be
right.
sad. Like, just because you're crying doesn't mean you're not strong to begin with.
Right. Yeah. So I'll give that one like a 5. It's literally not the worst thing. And I think that is definitely one of the ones where people are just like, like stay strong, like, you'll get through it.
Yeah.
Um, because also like I did have to stay strong when I found my mom unresponsive.
Mhm.
And I did have to stay strong. The problem with that is depending on who you're talking to. If you're talking to somebody that is the pillar of their family and has to hold everybody else up,
Mhm.
you negate their time to grieve. And you almost, not that they need the permission, but you kind of make them feel like you still got to stay strong for everybody else. You got to, like, listen, your sister depends on you, your brother depends on you. And you sometimes eliminate their need for grief. And depending on who the person is or at the time in their life of where they are, they may take that to fucking heart that, like, hey, I don't get to grieve because, like, my sister's sad. I don't get to grieve because my child is sad. And that's not realistic. And so sometimes that can put a lot of heaviness on people that shouldn't be there.
Yeah. What about like right after your dad died? People that were like, well, at least you still have your mom. Well, first of all, Michelle, you ruined that one.
Yeah. Thanks, Rory.
Thanks, Roy.
Yeah. Again, they're all fucking trash statements. And I get it. There's nothing to say. But also, like, at least in my situation, I had a great relationship with either of my parents.
Mhm.
But, like, could you imagine you say that because that's just what you go to? And maybe their mom was abusive as fucking shit. And they were like, actually, I wish my dad was the one that, or like, I wish my mom was the one that fucking died. Like, you don't know people's relationships behind closed doors.
Mm-mm.
And so I think that's a really insensitive thing to say because, like, also, yes, I want my mom, but I also want my dad. One
Right.
does not, like, cancel out the other.
Yeah. Well, as we kind of end, what is one thing that if there's anybody listening that had a similar experience, whether it's the loss of one parent, both parents, somebody super close to them, what is some actual quality advice as someone that's gone through it that you would give them that's like not sugar-coated bullshit from the internet?
I think, one, I always advocate for you to speak about the person you lost, whether sibling, child, parent, whatever. And don't feel that, like, you've become this sad little person that's dwelling on the past. Um, because fuck that. I don't care. But talk about the people that are important to you. And I think that's super important. So that's one of my favorite things to do. Um, Also, get comfortable in your feelings. It is okay to be sad. It is okay to be mad and angry. The amount of times I was fucking pissed off at my parents for dying, like they had a fucking choice in the matter. But it grief is a fucking roller coaster, and you do have the denial and the acceptance and the anger. And so get comfortable in your emotions, but also be able to recognize when maybe they're too much or you need to reach out. Um, Also, I think a big one that I had struggled with at certain points and that I think a lot of people struggle with, honestly, is um, don't feel guilty for having happy moments. Uh, I think that is a big one. You find yourself laughing or smiling or enjoying yourself. And then whether it's a fucking outside person, which how dare they, or internally, all of a sudden you're like, I have no right to feel this way because I've lost so and so.
Yeah.
And that's just unrealistic. And it is okay to be happy. It does not mean you are forgetting your loved one. It does not mean that they did not matter. It did not mean that they did not have an impact in your fucking life. It just means that, like, you are being human and you are also living your life. Like, your life should not center around another person's, and that's even in death.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's blunt or insensitive, but like, I don't feel that every decision I make should be whether or not my parents wanted them, just because they have now passed. Um, I didn't make those decisions when they were alive, so like it shouldn't be altered now as to be dependent on how I make decisions in my life. So,
Yeah.
I don't know. Grief fucking sucks. Losing somebody fucking sucks.
Losing both of your
And
parents double sucks.
yeah, they could have just like told me they didn't want me anymore, but you know,
Yeah. They could have
I
dropped you
guess
off in childhood and avoided like
right.
adult orphanage,
Yeah, but I guess communication wasn't key in that aspect.
honestly.
Um, and also don't be afraid to laugh about it. I turn all my trauma into fucking jokes, and um, I kind of get a joy when I make on people or when I make people uncomfy.
As you should, however you cope.
But
And I think that's a good point. If people listening take one thing away from this episode, I think grief, it doesn't make you broken. It makes you a human being. And there
yes,
really is not a right way to grieve. Like if it's someone that cries constantly or makes dark jokes about being an orphan, or they stay busy, or they need medicine, or they need therapy, like
right,
your grief is still real. Your grief is still valid, regardless of how you choose to move on with your life. Because at the end of the day, Earth keeps spinning, and you
yeah,
have to find something that's going to work for you.
yeah,
And if that's
absolutely,
making jokes to your friends that we question your sanity, like that, it's still valid. That's still
yes,
valid. So, well, thank you for sharing your story and sharing a part of them. Like, I know it can be difficult to talk about, but I think it's a super important message. And I know there's people listening that have gone through something similar. And
mm,
seeing someone on the other side, like again, it never goes away, but seeing
right,
someone that's been through it and is learning to continue, I think that's super important. So, okay, we'll see everybody next week.